So welcome back to Let's Talk About That. We have Emma with 10,000 Villages today. Emma, how are you doing today?
Doing well for the most part. You know,
For the most part?
the weather outside's a little sad, but
It's not really the weather, it's the smoke and fog.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, if you don't know about that, what's happening right now is there were fires in Canada, and now it's in our backyard.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
A sunny day is now a cloudy day.
Yeah. You said, but you don't really like to be outside.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about 10,000 Villages. Okay, here's a little secret. I have never been to 10,000 Villages before.
Well, hopefully after this you want to come.
I probably am. I'm gonna go. I've passed it a couple of times. I'm like, there's something in there. It's 10,000 villages. I wonder how did they fit them all inside there?
It's an amazing work of volunteers and myself, but mostly my volunteers.
Okay, so let's dig into that.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about 10,000 Villages.
Well, we are a nonprofit. We're fair trade as well, which means we work with artisan partners in developing countries to help bring their products and their work of arts to the U.S. markets through fair trade relationships. And so 10,000 Villages specifically, they pay their artisans 50% at contract and then 50% when the product comes to the U.S. And so that is ensuring that they're being paid entirely in full. And so anything that's damaged or on clearance, that is taken on by the organization itself. And then, the products are fair trade, which means they're being paid fairly. They're working in safe work environments. And the products are sustainable and earth friendly. And there's no forced labor or anything.
So what kind of products would I expect? So if I walked in, am I going to see just anything and everything, or what would you see?
A little bit of anything and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, we would consider ourselves a boutique.
Okay.
We have varying items from, garden to kitchenware to gifts for kids. We carry some cards. We have little trinkets and games, office supplies. And then we also do carry some food products as well from our both local and also internationally.
So you could find something really unique there potentially that you may not find in a big box store, right?
Correct. Yep.
Do you find a lot of people are kind of searching for that? They're like, hey, I need something special in my home, or I'm looking for something interesting. Do you see a lot of people coming in asking stuff like that?
Yeah, I think most of our customer base, especially during the holiday season, they come in and they're like, this is a different kind of store. It's things that they won't see in other stores. And the other aspect of it goes back to the fact that we're a nonprofit and fair trade. So it makes the product more worthy. We focus on the story of the artisan partners who make them, because it's more than just a product. There's a story behind it. There's a family who made it, or there's a kid who made it as part of an educational activity, things like that. And each product is very unique because it's all handmade. So even though there might be some things that look the same, there's going to be something different about one to the next of it because they're all handmade. And there's always,
So since you talked about stories, we like storytelling here.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's kind of our thing too.
Yeah.
So how do you guys go about that? How do you tell the story of that artist that created that product or that work of art?
Yeah, so we often hold a piece of product that represents that artisan group, and we tell the customer how that product is helping this artisan group complete their mission or continue further their mission. Oftentimes, with my volunteers and myself, we engage with a couple of stories that interest us specifically. And it varies quite a bit because of how many we have. And so that allows for difference. And that usually helps engage with the different countries. But one story I like to focus on is one of our artisan partners, Prakriti. They are a women's group that help educate women that are not necessarily in a position that can, like, they can go back to school, but they have a family and they need to work.
Life.
So it's life.
Life is
while also providing a space for their kids while they're working to, again, educate, to provide maybe nursery care or things like that. And so we help the customers by just telling their story, how they tell it to us. Like, this product helped me go to school and learn how to be a businesswoman. And then we relay that to the customer in that same fashion.
Do you do that also, like, say, on social media or anything like that in your marketing campaigns, and just to help, like, pitch the stories of where the products are coming from?
Yeah.
Is that kind of like the lead in also from, I mean, some people may see it online, but, like, do you have it in the store where how, like, you, when you're presenting your product, or what does that say? And I'm being, I haven't been there, so I'm pulling it from you. Like, what's that look like? What's the story look like?
Right. So there are multiple avenues of doing it. Yeah, we do it through social media.
Okay.
We often have, so the organization itself, we're a network of stores.
Okay.
We're one store among many. And we're all owned locally. And so for us, as a network, we have workshops, and during those workshops, we often get chances to interview artists and partners, and we take bits from those, whether it's a video bit or it's pictures that they send us, and we share that through our social media. We, in our store, have a running television of, like, different videos that have been taken a while ago of artists and partners that we still work with, and how they craft their work, and how like the environment that they're working in. And yeah.
Oh, wow. So, Suzette, you know a little bit about what's going on at 10,000 Villages. Well, so you've been there.
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
My thoughts?
Yeah, like, because you worked there for a little while, didn't you? Tell me a little bit about your experience at 10,000.
Okay, yeah. So I would say that working with 10,000 Villages was a very unique experience because they are a nonprofit organization. They're actually the only nonprofit organization I've worked with. So with that being said, I noticed how important community is, the local community, because as Emma mentioned earlier, like she does get a lot of help from volunteers. And I noticed that the volunteers that are there at 10,000 Villages are actually really passionate about the mission of 10,000 Villages. So I don't see that very often, where every single person a part of an organization is truly 100% like just committed for the cause. So with people, when we're all gathered in the same room and we have the same mindset, it's like you can feel the love almost. Like it's like something very positive, I would say. So it helped me push myself to want to do the best that I can for 10,000 Villages. Since my role was partly doing social media, I did my best to express the artisan's story through like the captions, while also engaging people in the community to want to come out and check out what we have to offer and contribute to the artisan in whatever way possible. Like, so I really enjoyed being a part of that.
So it's really being really focused on your audience.
Yeah.
Like, so just heavy focus. So let's talk a little bit about the business. We're going to dig a little bit deeper now. Excuse me. So we talked about the surface level. We know what type of service you offer. Let's talk about like the operations of that. What does that look like on the day to day? When I know you have lots of products. And what does that look like?
It's a very unique operation. 10,000 Villages, part of their mission is to be able to pay the artisans in full and as much as possible. And so in that, the way we can do that is reduce fixed costs as much as we can. And part of that reduction is having volunteers on staff. So that way we don't have to pay.
You don't have as much overhead.
Right. We don't have as much overhead. We don't have as much like people to pay and such.
Do you find that like tough with volunteers just because it's volunteer work?
Yeah.
And it's
really interesting. So specifically our store, I am the only paid employee there.
Okay.
So all of my staff are volunteers, and it's a very unique dynamic because I am continually reminded that they are a volunteer. They're not a staff person. So the expectations are very different.
Yes.
But at the same time, I recognize that this volunteer position is very different from many volunteer positions. There's a lot to know. Like they have to know the point of sale. They have to unlock the building. They have to know a lot of things.
And fully understand the cause.
Right. And fully understand the cause. It's not just like putting cans on a shelf for like pantry. Not to diminish any of that. But there's so much to know. And with the average age of our volunteers to learn all of that, we just had a new tech computer system change. And a number of my volunteers had to transition to that. And I personally am just amazed at how much they're still able to take in, still willing to learn for the organization's sake. But yeah, there's so much to manage.
Do you feel yourself having to kind of step in sometimes whenever it gets tough? You know, like...
So yeah, everything is really on me because I'm the only paid employee.
Come on.
So like I said, it's a really unique dynamic. I love it, and I love being able to work with the volunteers and be able to say that my entire staff is volunteer. And then with my position, then as long as I can get volunteers to cover the store, then I'm able to do the rest of the job that they can't do, which is like inventory management or like all of those administrative things in the back.
So what's your primary objective? Like, you mentioned you are focused on volunteer adoption. That's some of it. So, but what is your primary objective in your position at 10,000 Villages? What is the title you carry, or what's your responsibility there?
So
I know you're kind of everything, but
I'm kind of everything. My main role is operations, store operations, and managing that. Essentially keeping the store open, and whatever that may entail.
So are you doing marketing,
inventory management, volunteer
networking,
training,
right?
General maintenance of the store.
Oh wow!
Yesterday,
you're busy.
Actually, just yesterday I created a summarized bulleted list of everything that I is on my.
Was that for yourself to say like, okay, this is what I am doing, or is it important to say this is what I'm doing because now I know what I need?
Yes, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I like to be. I mean, me personally, I'm very proud of myself for being in a position I am, and how much responsibility I have. But the reality of the position is that without help, there's so much on one person. And so we're working at trying to navigate through that. But I have an intern through a program every year for a year. And so that's very helpful for us.
So what's usually the dynamic, the size of your team that you have, usually on a week-to-week basis to help operate your store?
So if I did the math, 4 times 5, that's 20 shifts that need to be filled.
Okay.
Over a course, we're open from 10 to 5. So each shift is about 3.5 hours.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
Per person.
So
they're not doing 8 hours.
Correct.
Doing like 3 to 4.
We try to keep it short and simple because it is a lot to do. And when a store is slow, it's not very fun being in there when there's no one in there. And so I usually have a regular volunteers, which means they come in weekly or regularly. Often is about 10 to 12.
Okay.
Throughout the week.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And then I have a total of 35 who are either intermittent coming in or doing special tasks. here and there.
So what's the requirements for like a volunteer? Like usually, is there something official that you have to be enrolled in? Like in
not
like
entirely
legal stuff or
not super entirely.
Okay.
So if we're talking legalities, the store takes that on.
Okay.
So any liabilities on like the volunteers are made aware if there might be situations that are uncomfortable with customers.
Okay.
Or you might be asked to lift a couple of things or something.
And
but
sign this
generally,
waiver.
in a way,
This disclaimer.
Yeah,
If you
right,
blow your
in a
back
way.
out.
But generally, the manager, myself,
Yeah.
I often recognize when a volunteer can or can't do something
Okay.
or is not capable of doing something. And I respect that boundary for them and take on the task. And it's sometimes like just as simple as getting up on a ladder, which is very understandable for a number of my volunteers. It's a little high up and it's not super, super fun to be high up when your body is a little more frail. So
you have to be really aware of your staff and who's working that day and with all the other things that are going on around you too as well.
Yeah.
So what is like usually the busiest days you usually have? Like, is it on the weekend?
Usually weekends. Saturdays are probably our busiest days because it's the weekend.
People are out.
Maybe Friday evening, afternoon. But yeah, Tuesday through Thursday are usually a little slower. I often encourage my volunteers to bring a book or a craft just to do something on the store floor in case I don't have a project for them to do.
So let's talk about like challenges. Okay, so what are some of the challenges you face like in 10,000 villages?
Volunteer recruitment.
Okay. Well, which that is a thing that's people to work.
And volunteer in general, rock volunteer recruitment has been a challenge just in general throughout Elkhart County. I wouldn't say it's just us.
Right.
But yeah, the challenge is being able to give a job description that doesn't make the job seem too challenging at first sight. And since it is challenging. It is challenging. But since I have come on, I have created kind of these different tiers of volunteering. So that allows more space for people to volunteer in a capacity if they're aware of the mission and they want to help but can't do a certain thing. That is something that I focus on in my volunteers and interns is their skills and what they're capable of. And then I hone in on those and emphasize any work or projects directed towards those specific volunteers. But yeah, I've created tiers that like, there's 3 levels essentially. The first one is they don't need to know the register at all. They just need to know the mission. They need to be able to access the resources they have to tell stories or find product information and be able to assist the one that is working the register. And then we have those who know the register, which is level 2. It includes level 1. And then tier 3 is all of those plus knowing how to close or open. And they're key holder volunteers.
So do you feel that that's been vital towards the operations of the whole store, having your tiers and that organizational structure?
Yeah, I think so because it has allowed volunteers to kind of decide where they want to be and how much work, how much capacity they have to offer. When we did the new transition into the new tech, we had one volunteer step back a tier. She was like, I don't want to learn this, but I still want to volunteer.
Okay, so you do have like official levels of like classification. So so if they're not ready to be in level 2 yet, like they have the option to say, I just want to hover here.
Yeah.
I just want to be in level 1 right now because that's my happy place.
Yeah.
And then people, and I'm going to say this is attributes of time.
Yeah.
Right. So the longer they're there, they usually can move up and they a little bit more well-versed into what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And they'll keep going to levels. So how do you have, since they are volunteers, what is, I always feel like people have to feel a sense of achievement. Yeah. What does your like reward system look like for like your like accolades, like as you level up into level 2? What does that look like?
Yeah, volunteer appreciation is always something very tricky, especially for us. We have a discount for volunteers after they've worked a certain number of hours, and it's usually depending on what their case is. Sometimes we have volunteers that come in just for a short period of time. We have someone coming in who's part of a program. She's only going to be working for a month, but wouldn't reach that expected hour of like reward kind of thing. And so once they reach a certain number of hours or have done a certain amount of work, they get a discount. We do very clearly state to them that discounts don't really help our artisan partners. But we allow it, and it's something that they can work towards. A lot of my volunteers are very mission motivated.
Okay.
So they understand that difference of if we take a discount or not. So some do it when they're doing a really big purchase. But then some are like, no, it's like $14. I'm not going to take my discount for this.
Yeah.
So
just give them full credit for
right.
their work. Right.
So it varies. The other thing in sort of a way of rewarding them, I often give a personalized holiday gift in a way, something that I personally make. Past 2 years that I've been there, I've made them like a little cookie pack or make it your own. All you have to do is add these wet ingredients. So kind of like make one of those cake boxes, except homemade. And so I've done that and written personal notes during the holiday season. We also try to host a picnic for them sometime in the summer, just a chance for them to gather, see who else is volunteers. They might not know that someone else volunteers.
Because they don't ever work the same shifts.
Right, for the store. So that's a way that we try to introduce each other as well. But then I always ensure to them that I'm there to support them. That's like 80-90% of my job. And I think giving them that comfort and understanding that I'm always available at call if you ever need help, that they appreciate that, and they don't feel the pressure of the job on them. There's a doorbell up at the registers for them to call me.
It's like a secret alarms under the counter.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Oh, please.
But yeah, that doorbell gets rung quite often, and I don't
just
mind
holding on to
press it every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
So you do feel it's really important for to express the support and that group support type of family approach, right?
Right.
And we feel the same way here.
Yeah.
And our mission focus is work together, grow together. So we do feel like that's a very important characteristic, that it's not possible,
right,
unless we do it together. So no one's really alone, and you don't have to do it by yourself. So especially I would think with a lot of the causes, and you're looking at it's community empowerment within different communities, and that's the synergy that comes behind that. So do you actually work every day with everyone? Every day. So is that 6 days a week? Is it?
So thankfully we're only open 5 days.
Okay.
So I am there. Generally the time that I need to be there is 9:30 to 5:30.
Okay.
That adds a half hour on each end of when we're actually open, should there be an issue for at opening or closing. So
your background, I know you weren't always here.
Yeah.
I want to know more about you now. So what made you go to 10,000 Villages? Tell me how you ended up there and doing what you're doing now.
So that's kind of a funny story. I had been in the job since October 2020.
Okay.
More like August, but officially in October. And so I had actually graduated in May 2020 from college.
And you majored in what?
Sociology and psychology.
Okay.
That was all amidst the pandemic, if you might recall.
Oh, yeah.
And I had just come back. So I had just come back from a study abroad, and I just graduated. I had all these plans after my study abroad. those went down the drain.
Because of COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really, honestly, for the best, because it probably would have meant I wouldn't be here if that.
And the world's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID changed the world.
Yeah.
And like everyone's plans before then were like prior to the shift of the world, you know?
Yeah. But I was like, I worked part-time at the local pool as a lifeguard supervisor kind of, but I could only work up to 25 hours. So it wasn't super sustainable for after college life and whatnot, and building and bills and life. And so I was like, I got to start finding a full-time job.
Yeah.
So I did some searching and I was looking more under the administrative assistant kind of deal, and found 10,000 Villages and another place that was more dealing like conflict resolution. It was essentially required therapy or sessions after court assigned stuff. And so it would have been working either that or this. And so I did interviews for both. I wasn't super sure about 10,000 Villages because I didn't have that business background or financial education or any of that. And I was like, probably aren't going to want me because of that. But I'm like passionate about the mission. I had worked for 10,000 Villages at their home office a little bit, doing some projects as a high schooler.
Oh, okay.
So
that wasn't the first interaction.
Yeah. I grew up where the home office was, which is Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
and
okay.
so one of our a very good family friend brought me in doing projects, and now I pretty much work with her like indirectly, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I initially signed the onboarding contract for the other job because I was like, I don't think I'm going to get this, even after the second interview and all of that. And I signed on and was prepared for the next day to start and do all this boring stuff. It was like very, very scripted work, lots of confidentiality things to remember, lots of healthcare things to remember. And I
legal.
Yeah. And I was just like, I might be miserable, but this will do for now.
Yeah.
So I then, after the date, probably like 3 hours after I signed the contract and agreed to work with that organization, the board chair of 10,000 Villages called me. And funny side story, I cat sat for her in like a year and a half ago. And I didn't realize that until
You're a
later.
network. The cats of the world can save you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, she called me and said, we'd like to offer you the position, blah, blah, blah. And I said, because I had already accepted the other position. And so I was like, let me get back to you. I'm not quite sure. I just accepted another position for another job. I'll need to think about this. I clearly remember sitting in the living room of my apartment on the floor being like, where am I going to be happier?
Yeah.
And it came out in the end that it was 10,000 Villages. And so, and I've been...
So what do you think helped make that decision? Was it the history, the work? Work was one of them.
Right.
But when you're making that decision with the work that you do right now, by far is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy, nor like the other job would have been tedious too.
Yeah.
So what brought you to that decision of saying, I know I'm going to be doing a lot of work, but it's for the right reason?
Yeah.
Like,
I would say definitely the mission. I really much support that fair trade kind of aspect and idea, and learning that, hey, there's more, like products should be made fairly and you shouldn't be paying 4 cents for a t-shirt kind of thing. Right. Or like someone shouldn't be paid 4 cents to make a t-shirt.
Right.
And like we're all guilty of we're not perfect. We're all guilty of doing something.
Well, I'll tell you what,
but
I've never paid 4 cents for a t-shirt.
Well, you've paid $15.
Yeah, I've gotten all the markup.
Yeah.
Through all the hands that it touches. Yeah.
The other $14.96 has gone right back to the company. And
right.
4 cents go back to the workers.
Yeah.
So that is something that I was like, really, really like involved with and just really passionate about. And so then I also thought about the interactions. I'm a very much a people person during the day. and I love to interact with customers. I like being able to interact with the volunteers. That dynamic that I've created with volunteers and customer care is something that I really honed in on because I love it so much.
And do you think also being like a psychology major that is just understanding how people tick and how they work and how to communicate, and does that feed you?
I think so. I think it's definitely helped with my interactions with both volunteers and understanding that dynamic as well, and how to interact with literally 35 different personalities.
Right. I would say that's psychology. Some people have all 30.
Yeah. Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really awesome. That's interesting to hear. So, okay, I have a couple other things too. I was thinking about the financing side. Okay. So you mentioned like that wasn't your background. How did you adapt to that? Like,
I made that very clear to the board when I first came on. I said, this is where I don't have background and this is where I'm going to need help. And they were the board's role is to govern the store and help the manager in areas where they need help.
Okay.
Obviously, the role of the manager is to run the store operations. But there are some things that there's going to be needed extra assistance for sure. And so they really, at least at the beginning until I got a hang of it, really said like, here's how to read the finances. Here's how to understand these numbers.
So they taught you.
Yeah, in a way. And I also had another person within the network who was like QuickBooks, very good
just
at QuickBooks.
An assassin at
so
QuickBooks.
She was able to kind of walk me through and say, here's how you read these numbers.
This is what you need to know, right? And look at what you need to be focusing on.
Right.
And awesome. Okay, so as we kind of wrap up, we get close to the end of the show here. I always have this question. What is the biggest piece of advice you can give someone in your position when they're making a decision for choosing the right place to work or operating their business? What's the best advice you can give someone to make the right choices, like as you did for yourself?
Yeah, I would say think really deeply about where you'll be happy. Even though maybe the benefits or the pay might be better, reality is over time, if you're not happy, you're going to get burnt out. And so think about where you'll be happy for however long. You might not be in the job forever, but at least in that time frame, it'll make your transition in the job and out of the job, if that happens, a lot easier. Deciding what you need to take care of yourself and making sure that that company is providing that for you in a reasonable way. Yeah.
Can I ask
That's awesome.
a question?
Yeah.
If you don't mind. Oh, yeah. So through like listening to you talk and share how passionate you are about 10,000 villages, I feel like motivation is really important to individuals like yourself that have a lot on their plate, but, you know, they truly are passionate about what they're doing. So with that being said, how do you stay motivated?
I definitely am motivated by the mission. That might be cheesy or corny to say.
I respect it. No.
Yeah, I'd say definitely the mission and thinking about how in the long run these artisans are being paid for their work. They're getting access to a way of life that we simply take for granted here, like clean water, education, and things like that. And I also will say my motivation is just getting to see different people every day. I'm not seeing the same people every day. I am every week, but being able to interact with my volunteers, I always have like a 5-minute briefing period at the beginning of the shift. And then after the shift, I'm always making sure I walk away from my desk and I like greet them and say, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And to me, that gratitude is motivation for me because it's making someone else feel their like purpose. Yeah. Making them feel like their time there is worthy and valuable.
So do you think studying abroad, kind of feeding on to that, did studying abroad give you even a deeper appreciation? I don't know where you studied abroad.
Yeah.
But did you interact with potentially spaces where you can see those type of artists and see their struggles?
A little bit. I will say the study abroad was abruptly cut off by COVID.
Dang it.
So the first part of it, Suzette knows this, I think. The first part of it is the learning part. So the first 6 weeks we were learning and having classes and stuff. We weren't necessarily working in the community. And then
where were you studying?
I was in Tanzania.
Okay.
Sweet.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Far away from here, right?
Very far from here. Yeah.
Very far.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the second part of it is service, another 6 weeks in the community. But I only had about 2 weeks, and I will admit my supervisor was very much hands off and said, in Tanzania, it's like you say 9 o'clock, it could actually mean 12 p.m.
Oh, okay.
So he was very hands off. He'd said, hey, this is what you need to do today. But I got to interact with the medical team there, which was a very interesting experience. Where a team from Cincinnati came in to provide a clinic to the community. And I got to go in and help out, observe, talk to clients and talk to patients and things like that.
So you were able to get an experience that does build up some of the characteristics that you have right now. Yeah. Even though it was a short period of time.
Right.
But still, you could appreciate some of the work and the experience that you had in Tanzania. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Not a lot of people can say they've been to Tanzania. I know I haven't.
I haven't been there.
Cool, though.
Yeah, it's a great place. The skirt is from there. Actually.
It's really pretty. I was gonna say.
So, do you still try to stay a little bit connected back there or something?
Did you meet anybody? I have not been.
Would you go back?
Don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I can't say I had the worst experience.
Right.
It was.
You had an experience.
It was an experience. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It was great to meet you, hear your story. And if someone's interested in coming to 10,000 Villages, can you tell them where they need to go?
Yeah.
And and what time to find you?
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Well, we're located in downtown Goshen on Main Street. It's 206 South Main. We're right next to the Nut Shop and Found, so just kind of right there in the main center of downtown. If you're not able to get into our store, which we're open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5, we also have an online store, which is 10,000villages.com/Goshen. And so then you can also see what's there. I will say anytime you come into the store or online, you're never going to see the same thing for the most part. Everything changes, and that's just the uniqueness of being our store and a locally owned store. We carry different things than what the online store may not.
So if you like something, buy it.
Buy it, exactly.
Limited
because
edition.
It may be one of a kind. You may not be able to get it again.
Exactly.
Or how can people volunteer if they're interested in that?
Yeah, they can either come in. We have applications available via QR code or one they can fill out there. Nice. They can also fill one out online at 10,000villages.com/Goshen.
Fantastic.
Cool. Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, if you guys are looking for a good cause to contribute to, 10,000 Villages right here.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you on the next show. Take care.